Hey everyone, Coach Patrick here from Endurance Nation, back with our 20 do's and don'ts for winter training for endurance athletes. Of course, we're coaches here inside Endurance Nation. We've got videos, we've got text, we've got podcasts, we've got instruction manuals, we've got workouts, we've got training plans. But at the end of the day, sometimes it's just really helpful to cut right to the chase. The do's and the don'ts, make sure that you understand what it is that is on the right side of the spectrum and what is it that's on the wrong side of the spectrum. Some of you out there just like to know right and wrong, and then seed yourself accordingly along that spectrum. Enjoy this brief video with me as I talk to you through the 20 do's and don'ts of winter training for endurance athletes, brought to you by Endurance Nation. All right. Number one, don't have an off season. In our experience, most athletes, when you give yourself permission to be off, you go off. It leads to this cascading situation with counterproductive effects relative to what it is you want to achieve during your season. As a result, the outside gives you permission to tear down any of the gains that you've made. You worked really hard last year. You built lots of fitness. You did work, you did rest, you did recovery, you did core, you did injury management, you traveled to races, you learned a ton. But when you go into the off season, you're taking all of that and you're saying, that's really cool. I'm going to put it over here. I'm sure I'll remember it when I come back next year and start all over again. And if just as well as I do, the odds of that happening, pretty darn slim. So don't give yourself that level of permission. Do not take an off season. Number two, instead of taking an off season, we want you to take an out season. You're not off, you're out. It sounds subtle. Maybe to some of you it sounds maybe not so effective, but it actually is a huge mental shift for how athletes function in the winter. And we're encouraging you as an endurance athlete to make this step with us. Specifically, the requirement here is that you're actually going to maintain fitness, because we're not off, we're still on. We're just not in season, we're just out of season. And just like you would see a professional basketball player, a professional football player, a professional lacrosse player, a professional soccer player, they're doing work in the out season to get stronger, work that complements the gains they've already made last year, work that adds perhaps new strengths or skills to your athletic resume in a way that makes you better. So instead of going off, we go out. And the longer your race goals are, the more endurance you put into your goals for the season, the more important this out season becomes, right? The more important that this work really happens. So it's very important to take advantage of this opportunity so you can make investments, however small, that will add to what you already invested last year. The compound effect of merging those double investments together will position you for success in the coming season. Number three, don't build your base. Don't do it. Don't build your base. The fitness you've worked so hard for all year, last year, that's your base. It's not like we hit December or January and all of a sudden I don't have base. I need to build base. I have to build base. You just built base. You just put together base. Go look at your Strava. Go look at your Garmin. Do the end of year stats. Watch the video on Relive. You'll see the numbers. They're pretty incredible. Odds are you're probably in the top 20 to 15% of Strava users of all time around the globe, like straight up around the globe. You are not lacking base fitness. You are not lacking base volume. You've already got it. And a proper base, when you really think about it, is actually something that's built season for season. One of the competitive advantages that older masters athletes have, and why you see them still being successful, 40s, 50s, even 60s, is because they have years and years of training under their belt, years and years of base. It's not that in January they decided to just go do zone 1 and zone 2 for a couple of weeks. That's not base, is your career, the work that you've been putting in this whole time. So instead of just hitting the stop start button or getting into this build, then I lose it, then I have to rebuild it, negative cycle that most endurance athletes go through, give yourself permission to really train. Let's have you really go out there and do some work here in this out season. It's going to complement the work you did all season, your base, and by adding strength, fitness, and intensity to it, you're actually going to be better when you hit this next season. Number four, don't jump on the Ben and Jerry's bus. The bus I'm talking about. It's colorful, it's alluring, the kids all want to get on it. They've got right size scoops and pints of all the flavor ice creams. It is super duper tempting. I know we have an ice cream time trial every year, and it definitely adds up where people are like, hey, this is the time. We do it for a day, but some people do an ice cream time trial for several months, and you don't want to be that kind of person. Want to say, hey, let's do a little storytelling for you, right? Hey, October Timmy. Timmy's our favorite, right? This is January, Timmy. I just want to thank you for getting all that great work we've done, lose all that weight, get ready to race, build the skill set, build the mental toughness, and you gave it all to me. And so what I'm going to do this season is I'm going to ruin it by having tons of ice cream, doing zero work, not staying focused at all. So when we come back next year, you're actually going to have to rebuild for months. Thanks so much. You're the best. Don't do it. Don't do it. Don't be that person. If you take a moment, look back, you'll see that you've actually done that to yourself. You've actually undermined the work that you put in simply by taking 10 steps back. 2 steps forward, 1 step back. I think we can all agree. That sounds pretty good to me. 10 steps forward, 10 steps back, starting next year at the same weight you were last year when you had to do 3 months of rebuilding and dieting. Why would you do that to yourself? Please don't do it to yourself. Next up, do develop good body composition habits. So leaving Ben and Jerry's behind, let's make some good, healthy decisions about how we want to maintain our body composition. Develop habits over the winter. Eat better. Log your diet against your exercise. Learn to reconcile work done with calories in. Yes, it's the season for eating everything, and I'm not suggesting that you can't have fun, you can't eat and enjoy some of the delicious foods that exist right now, but I can tell you, and you know this yourself, that there's a fine line between sampling what's delicious out there and then also making sure that there's nothing to actually put in the dishwasher because you ate it and made it look like it was a brand new plate. Don't be that person. I've been that person. I bet you've been that person. Don't be that person. Make smart, healthy decisions about your body composition. The work that you do now about thinking about your diet and becoming healthy, even though our exercise volume is lower, will compound over time. Bringing these healthy habits into the season will actually have a greater impact for you. The longer you can sustain healthy eating habits, the healthier you'll be and the better your body composition will be when you need it to be. All right? Next up, don't track your training volume. It's super tempting. All the training tools that live out there on the world, whether they're on your phone or on your laptop or just a training log, everything we do, we just naturally gravitate towards tracking volume. How many miles this week? How many hours this week? How many calories burned? How many kilojoules? It's all a counting game, and more is better. More is not better in the winter. And I was talking about pumpkin pie before, but what I mean right now is actually specifically tracking training volume. You don't need to build your endurance during volume during this game. If you're tracking your volume in the winter, you're measuring the wrong metrics. You're incentivizing yourself to chase the wrong goals. Don't do it. That's not a requirement until we hit March or April, even depending on those early season races where you're at. So don't track the training volume. Do yourself a favor, tape up that part of your screen, hide the numbers, whatever it is, that is not the target that you're chasing in the winter. Okay, we do want you to set a training volume ceiling. That's right, just like this tiny little box that I'm in here inside your video player, we also want you to think about having a ceiling for your training. Give yourself a number, a training number as part of your ceiling that you're not going to exceed for any reason. Inside Endurance Nation, our out-season program has anywhere from 6 to 8, 7 to 9, depending if you're on beginner or advanced levels of training during the week. That's the ceiling. You don't get bonus points for going 15 hours in the winter or going 20 hours in the winter. That actually just takes away from the time that you could be spending with your family, time that you could be sleeping, recovering, or doing other restorative work that makes you just a better human being overall. Our plans include 2 days off a week. We recommend Mondays and Fridays are completely off from training. That allows us to do more work or get faster work, the hard work that you do during the week, which also allows us to keep the volume down and allows you to become stronger over time as you're more resilient, unlike the work we do in season when we're full-on endurance athlete training and we need to stack all these days together. So be smart here and use that ceiling accordingly. Set that ceiling, observe the ceiling, follow the rules of the ceiling. Next up is one for the triathletes out there. Do not swim for fitness in the winter. Don't do it. Don't go out doing 4K, 5K 2 or 3 times a week in the wintertime. If you're like most age group triathletes, if you're already a swimmer, you're a pretty damn good swimmer compared to your peers. If you're not a good swimmer, then there's lots of things you need to do to work on your technique, and that's important, but not for fitness. Swimming for fitness right now is just time ill spent towards making you a better overall athlete when it comes to being strong, when it comes to being rested, when it comes time to tackle the season, right? You can recreate that swim fitness, and this is the best part, in just a couple weeks, 3 to 4 weeks. Before you get into your big race, we have a swim camp as part of our annual training progression for our athletes. You'll get that fitness back super quickly, and you'll be ready to rock. You'll be right back at those levels you were last year. The swim is not the difference maker for your fitness or for your race performance. However, caveat here for the next one, do seek out swim technique help if you need it. Now's a great time to find a swim coach, book some time, Hours are low, maybe pools are closed, open, so you got to juggle that. But get in there and actually spend some time in the pool. Since you're not training and exhausted, you can actually spend more time focusing on technique. You could actually perhaps even complement what you're doing in the water with dry land exercises that will make you more flexible, more aware of your body position, thinking things like yoga or perhaps even Pilates, some stretching, some core work with bands, cords, etc. So you can get better at manipulating the muscles you need to move in order to improve your swim stroke, whether it's the catch or the finish, or just your general sense of balance inside the water. This is a great time to do it. So make that investment in the winter. If your technique is poor, get some technique time. The best part, you can book it into a weekend. Sometimes there's clinics in your neighborhood, or you can do a couple sessions. I recommend you put them together for quick feedback loops and then spend lots of time swimming on your own and then come back. Don't space them out 7, 10, 14 days at a time. It's not enough of a rapid learning cycle for you to actually get better. All right, don'ts. We're back to the don'ts now. Don't ride your trainer for more than 2 hours, for 120 minutes. I guarantee you, at some point, you're going to be tempted. Whether I've created a challenge inside the team or someone else is throwing down the gauntlet, or you don't really have anything on your weekend schedule, so you're like, hey, I can go longer. I'll just go. We'll do this long ride. You'll see it. It'll be up on Strava somewhere. It'll be inside Zwift. It's a ride. Do 4 or 6 hours, etc. If that's something you want to do because it's part of your fun routine, I get it. Do it once. If it's part of something you're doing because you got an early season race, talk to your coach, whether that's me or whoever your professional may be. Do that and get that reconciled. But for almost everybody, 99% of you out there watching this video right now, understand that riding more than 2 hours is not going to help you. You're going to be doing that in season. We have to separate the work we do in season to be race-specific fit, which is volume, versus the work we do in the winter, which is about getting stronger and faster, which is not race-specific for us, but will become race-specific important as we add the endurance on top of the fast we built in the winter. Do look at your bike like a bench press. Oh, how many of you out there have bench press experience? I only do from high school, but I bet some of you get the basic sense of what I'm talking about here. We want the weight room mentality. Don't look at your bike as an adventure tool in the winter. It's a bench press. Your job is to get on the bike, go really hard, and then get off your bike. Your job is to cram as much work into your body as you possibly can, like jamming the intensity, jamming the VO2, jamming the threshold work in there, really pushing hard, not forcing in the time. Forcing in time comes later. Those 4-hour, 5-hour, Ironman specific, Century specific, endurance gravel ride specific rides, those will come later. You don't need to do them in January to be ready for your July race. Repeat after me. You don't need to do that long ride in January to be ready for your July race. Get on the bike, do the work, get off the bike. Don't buy race wheels and other fancy stuff. Just leave those crazy end of season, Black Friday, day after Christmas, New Year's sale, holidays behind. It's really tempting to get into the space of spending lots and lots of money on stuff that looks really good and could potentially make you faster. Don't do it. If somebody wants to give you a gift, hey, I'm all about the gifts. If somebody in your family or your circles, hey, I want to gift you these race wheels, or I want to gift you these amazing tires. Hey, fine. Don't turn away gifts, but don't go out shopping for the accoutrement that you think is going to make you necessarily faster. There are places that you can invest your training dollar that will give you better returns. That's coming up next. But don't chase the silly things. Don't chase the aero socks. Don't chase the aero pedals. Don't chase the crank that's totally dialed in. Don't chase the super top technical wetsuit that makes you look like Batman or some other Marvel superhero just because. Don't do it. Save the money. There's some place you can spend it. Do buy a power meter. That's right. If you're about to drop a ton of money on like wheels or pedals or some other sort of aerodynamic geekery stuff, you better make sure you have a power meter already in your cycling arsenal, or a power meter or the equivalent thereof for your run experience as well. The out season is the perfect time to train with power, whether it's for the run or for the bike. The idea being that we can actually take a look at these quantifiable numbers and actually start moving those numbers northward. Our training in the winter is very simple. It's interval based. And our job is to get you that take like 100% in December and make that 120% capacity by the time we get to February. We can add that 20% because we have a power meter. We have an effort-o-meter on your bike, on your run, or in the case of the Vasa Swim Erg, on your swim bench. And we can actually look at that number and say, I want to make that number go up. This is the work I'm doing. My number is going up. I'm getting stronger. I'm being able to put out more work in a short period of time. That is the effort that we want right now. That's what we want to focus on. So spend the money where it matters the most. All of these lessons you're learning about working hard, doing the work, shutting it off will come into play later in the season. When we do more of the volume work, this mindset will pay off. But for right now, we're doing the intensity. We're locked in doing the work. Do the work, take the rest. Don't run a marathon. Please, don't run a marathon in the winter. Don't do it. It's super tempting. Once you've had a great season, you built all this volume, people are like, you know what, I don't have a lot going on. It's November or December or January. My race season really isn't for 6 months away. So why don't I don't know, let's go do a marathon just because I can do a marathon. If it's for family, if it's for a social cause, if you're checking off the World Masters Marathon bucket list or something like that, we can have a conversation. But if it's something you're trying to do to build your run fitness, it's the wrong time to do it. The reason why you didn't run as fast as you wanted to run this season was probably because you didn't do the work before, so you just weren't that fast, or you just executed poorly. Either one of those things can be solved by learning how to execute, which is a mental exercise and built over time over the course of a season, and then putting in the work, which is a consistency problem that we can solve with a better training plan, figuring out your days, creating a pattern that's successful for you, that you can do it. But just running more and running harder and running faster is not going to make you better. Adding more running to the time of year when you're supposed to be off from running and resting and recovering is not going to make you better. It's only going to add the fatigue to your system and take away from your ability to actually be fast when you want to be fast. Do run everything else. I know I just said don't run a marathon, but I want you to run everything else. This is the perfect time of year. There are tons of 5Ks, Chase Santa, Beat the Turkey, New Year's Hangover Run the 10Ks, run the short stuff. You can go all the way up to the half marathon distance. That's fine. We have that at the end of our out-season program as a half marathon test for most athletes. A simple progression would look something like we'll do the 5K in November, we'll do the 10K in December, and then like January or February, we'll do a half marathon, close out your out-season, get a good benchmark number. That half marathon then becomes a target number that we'll use, and it's endurance-ish specific. We can use it across the rest of your season, whatever your longer-term goals will be, assuming that your sport involves running. We can use this local running scene to just stay engaged, stay fun, keep things healthy and going. And you get in this like 4 to 6 week window between races, it's just enough where you can do the work, see the results, do the work, see the results. It's exactly what we want to have in the winter. We want short-term timeframes. We can measure differential, get better at what we're doing, get better, in this case, in the winter, by working hard and suffering a little bit out there on the run. Don't be limited by heart rate. Now, heart rate's a really critical tool for us when we get in season, but in the wintertime, heart rate is not the number that we're looking to move. You don't have to punch the clock for endless hours at a magical zone 1 effort for fat burning, etc. And actually, it's really not that magical when you come right down to it. You already have an excellent aerobic base. That was last year. Do you remember last year? Go take a look at your training log. Yeah, last year was a thing. It's for real. I can't cancel it. It's right there. It's real. And you burn calories. You have a base, etc. So don't get stuck into saying, oh, I've got to ride at zone 1 for many weeks to actually get good at riding in zone 1. Our human bodies are really good at dialing the effort down and being as efficient, or as the body would call it, lazy as possible to sustain our performance over time. That is a default setting we have. Our job to fight that resistance is actually build the strength to do more work. So next year's easy is actually much stronger and faster than last year's easy was. And we raise that bar, we raise the tide. We do it all here in the winter with the out season. Instead of heart rate, we do want you to learn how to run with pace. You can use pace or power for the run in this case, but either way, someone please ask your favorite Christmas character to bring you a watch, a GPS watch, one that has pace as a minimum, ideally maybe one with even a power meter, like a pod or something like that we can use. And the idea is this is an opportunity for you to train and learn how to run specific to these numbers. So instead of just running by effort and feel, actually learning to run by numbers. Just like you go to the gym and move the pin. Last week I was at 20 pounds, this week I'm at 25 pounds, or last week I was at 20 pounds, this week I'm at 30 pounds. You can do the same with the run. Last week I was at 955s, this week I want to be at 950s. We can start to use the data that we're getting to make micro changes in the work that we're doing to ramp up the intensity that we're putting into our bodies that forces the physiological adaptation that we want to have. And pace and power become incredible tools to do it. And again, learning all of this in the winter is a fantastic time to set a baseline because we can make these small incremental changes that will add up and set you free once you head out into the real season. So do that. Get into it, right? Do it. Get the pace. Go for it. Next up, don't burn your mental currency or your SAUs. SAUs, you say, what's an SAU? It is a spousal approval unit. When you're in season and you've got a big race and you got to do a big training race rehearsal or whatever it is you may be doing, you got to go away for a while and do this mini camp or whatever you're up to, you are burning spousal approval units. You have to go to your significant other and say, hey, I've got to, take this time back because I need it for myself. So this means that you're on your own with family, kids, responsibilities, etc. We do the same at work. Hey, I'm a team player, but this Friday I'm taking off because I got to do this thing and this other thing, etc. That's really tough. And you have to do it in season because it allows you to achieve your endurance goals. And if you've been really awesome the rest of the year, like now in the winter, it's okay. People get it because in the wintertime, you're putting in the work. So don't burn those things if you need to have them as you're going through the process of becoming a successful athlete. Don't burn through them when you need them most. In the wintertime, now's the time to be super happy, super helpful, be super engaged, and do all the things that you need to do to make sure that you're good. Last but not least, do chill, relax, disconnect your head from all the endurance training and racing. Your Facebook feed or your Instagram feed, Strava, you'll see people racing. Now that we're globally connected as athletes, as a community, you'll see evidence everywhere of people doing epic things all the time. Don't be tempted. Do something different. Pick up a new hobby. Start reading. Get into doing home improvement tasks or start a club in your town doing something neat. Go mentor some kids, educate something, volunteer for something, do something different. When you have a volume ceiling on your training and you can't go beyond it, that frees up a certain amount of time. It could be 3 hours, 4 hours, 5 hours to do something different. Invest that time wisely. In the future, you'll be glad you did. A couple hours a week in some new activity can actually make you really good. Say you want to start painting, 5 hours a week, practice painting, buy yourself some paints, go for it. By the end of the 14 weeks, that's 90 hours worth of painting. You're going to be pretty good by the time you get to the end of it because you've invested that time. Don't waste investing that time in a space where you don't need to. Don't waste building that zone 1 volume time here in the winter. Now is not the time. Connect with your family. Thank the people who've supported you through your words and actions, not just a cutesy little card for the holiday time. At the end of the day, we only have so much headspace to be able to do all of this stuff. We only have so much energy and time that we can dedicate to being super on the pony end and our best to best. So don't fight it. Don't act like a professional wrestler who's amped up on steroids. Disclaimer, not a professional wrestler. Disclaimer, don't know if any professional wrestlers are on steroids. But you don't have to be awesome every single time you show up. But you do have to be good and you have to be consistent. And balance is key to be able to do that. And the winter is a great time to honor all the other parts of your life that make you a great person and a great athlete. So go do it. Hope you enjoyed this segment on the 20 do's and don'ts for the winter season training here for endurance athletes. If you want to learn more, check us out at endurancenation.us. You can apply to join the team, join over 500 athletes who understand the do's and the don'ts, who are walking that fine line, doing the work, have the ceilings, following the rules, doing it right so we can have sustainable long-term careers as endurance athletes that allow us to achieve all of our goals, whether they're on a swim course, on a bike course, a run course, or some combination thereof. We're the place to do it. Thanks, everyone. Have a great holiday season. Coach Patrick signing off. I'll see you next time.